And now, how to take care of your toadstool with Christopher Walken. Hello, children and adults who are sat at home with the whooping cough or some other terrible affliction. To you all, I say a genuine good morning, or whatever time it is in your part of this wonderful blue sphere on which we all dance. You're listening to Taking Care of a Toadstool with me, Christopher Walken. The first thing one must do to grow a successful toadstool is make sure you keep it out of the light. I cannot stress this enough. Keep the damn little thing out of the light. Fungi like this one thrive, and I'm saying thrive, on the darkness. And who can blame them? What with global warming and the ozone layer and other such boo-boos, why not stay dark, little mushroom, in your pot, in my cupboard, just below my shelf of What's Grouting magazines and my papier-mâché head of Louis XIII?
Hello there, Christopher. What are you up to, then? It looks like you're talking to a bloody mushroom.
Wow, that's right, ladies and germs. It's my very good friend, Michael Caine. Say hello, Michael.
Hello. You didn't answer me, Christopher. You're a big man, but you're out of shape. And when a friend like myself asks a question, I think you should bloody answer it. Okay.
Well, Michael, it's funny you should ask. I'm talking to, as you say, a bloody mushroom, because I'm teaching the pixies listening at home in their underwater caves how to take care of a toadstool. It's hot and trying work. Michael, I have to stress this. It is hot and trying work. I think I may need some grapefruit juice, or to spend some time with my little hamster, whom I love above all things, and whom picks all of my film roles.
Let me get this straight. So these pixies, then, that are listening, right, to you looking after the mushroom, what do they do now, then?
Well, baby, I think we should maybe play them Glenn Miller or some other form of mad, toe-tapping music.
Don't be ridiculous, Chris. It's 2013. Nobody cares about or listens to bloody Glenn Miller. I think they'd be happier with some Simon and Garfunkel.
Don't finish your sentence. Michael, I implore you. Nobody but me utters the name of Art Garfunkel in this house. The man is a spiritual guru and a personal friend. I don't and will never play his music for anybody else but me and maybe my hamster Jimmy.
Well, what about this? This looks promising. It says it's called theme music to the after movie diner. I think we should put that on.
Michael, boo-boo, baby, cat, wow, you are crazy, crazier than Barbra Streisand's ear, nose, and throat doctor, but baby, cat, wizard, you may have something. Put it on and let's see what shakes loose. Tasty, and welcome to the After Movie Diner yet again. Another episode. I believe it's 86 or something like that. 86 bloody episodes. Who'd have ever thought it? Well, we're just 14 away from the big 100, and I am very, very happy this week as we have an exceptionally special and surprise guest, mainly because I thought he would never ever come on the show. So, fantastic, exciting. Look forward to that coming up soon. But first, we received this voicemail this week from an incredibly important, special, and famous person.
Hello, this is George C. Scott. I just want to say that this is the shittiest podcast I've ever listened to. I mean, my God, this is supposed to be a film podcast, and you haven't done a single episode on my body of work. Do you know who I am? Do you know the films I made? Huh? You British shit? Huh? I've done films like Firestarters and Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, Exorcist Free, and Titanic. No, not that one directed by that fuck James Cameron, but the TV movie from 1996. Great films. Huh? Oh my God. Do you know, actually, I was supposed to be the Penguin in Batman Returns? Yeah, I showed up on Tim Burton's office, all dressed up as the Penguin going, and there was also Sean Young as Catwoman. We both were looking around for the scoff faggot, but we couldn't find him. So anyway, I went home and fucked her, so I was happy anyway. Anyway, this show sucks. What do I say that? God, my groin hurts from that football. Oh my God.
Well, I don't quite know what to say to that. I do apologise, Mr. C. Scott, that we haven't covered any of your films on the Diner as yet. We hope to be going another 86 episodes at the very least, so we will get round to them, I promise. We just haven't done yet. I have covered the Changeling over on the blog, though, on aftermoviediner.blogspot.com, so you can go and read my review of that. I believe it was favourable to some extent, and I did recently buy Exorcist 3, so who knows? Who knows? I'm also a huge fan of you in Doctor Strangelove. So I apologise that the show upsets you, Mr. C. Scott. But thanks for sending in a voicemail, and it does mean that I can tell the listeners where they too can send us voicemails over at www.speakpipe, that's like speak, what you do with your mouth, pipe, like your bottom, .com/aftermoviediner. That's www.speakpipe.com/aftermoviediner. Leave us a voicemail, won't you? Also, while you're at it, why not rate and review us on iTunes? Why don't you do that? Why haven't you done that? I know I've got more downloads than I've got ratings and reviews, so why haven't you done that yet? Go do it now. Okay, and so this week on the show, we're going to be covering David Fincher's Zodiac because of July 4th, of course. And when you say, what do you mean, because of July 4th? Of course. Well, the first murder that they show in the film takes place on July 4th. Tenuous link? I think so. But, does it nicely kind of tie in with the whole Independence Day next week thing? Yes, it does. Do I care about Independence Day? No, I don't. I'm British. It would be stupid of me to embrace the holiday. However, because I know that we have a lot of American listeners, this is our Independence Day episode. Not really, there won't be anything to sort of say that, but I'm saying it right here and right now. So just accept that, okay? Be happy with it. Light off a firework, punch someone in the face, get drunk on some illegal hooch, and just, enjoy yourself. Congratulate yourself. Pat a neighbour on the back for having gotten yourself out from underneath the ruthless yoke of oppression of the British rule and going forward under your own yoke of massive oppression. But enjoy, anyway, the empire, and we will continue to limp on behind you, no doubt. Some sort of bug-eyed, swivel-headed, hunchbacked, crazy sort of cousin of yours. But happy Independence Day, all of you. Enjoy yourselves, and I hope you enjoy this episode. It's a fantastic one when we get round to it. Anyway, I asked some people on the Facebook to respond about Zodiac, the David Fincher film, and we got a couple of replies. So, here's some feedback off the internet. Commenting on the internet, they're commenting all over the internet and not all over my face. Okay, so first up is Lewis Cogill, which is apparently how you pronounce his silly name, but he is bearded, so we give him a break and call him whatever he wants to be called. Exactly. So anyway, he says, "Damn, John, did you find a list of things I haven't seen and build your schedule around it?" Yes, Lewis. Yes, I did. Tim Gross said, "Enjoyed Zodiac, but I'm too excited that Sharknado will be on in 2 weeks." Sharknado, for people who don't know, is a tornado full of sharks, and it's a movie about a tornado full of sharks. So look out for that. Check your local listings. And lastly, Philip O'Neill. He says, "David Fincher's Zodiac is a masterpiece of filmmaking, one of the best movies of the past decade. A perfectly A perfectly crafted, meticulous, and wonderfully performed mystery thriller about obsession. It reminds me of William Friedkin's Cruising, which is also a movie about obsession and trying to find a killer. Like Zodiac, the murders remain unsolved in that movie. One of the murders in Zodiac is actually staged just like a murder in Cruising. Although, considering Zodiac is real, I would imagine Cruising is probably staged like a killing of the Zodiac Killer. But, yes, good point, Philip. It is a fantastic movie, and thanks very much for writing in.
Howdy, folks. You like blood, violence, freaks and nature?
You come to the right place. My name is Gary, and I'm your guide to the Sin and Beef Podcast. Every episode, we not only deliver film reviews, we also dismantle some of your favorite and most hated films, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse.
Hey, you shut your face! If we want to hear you talk, I will shove my arm up your ass and work your mouth like a puppet.
All right, calm down. Every show I hope to have a new co-host, podcasters and listeners alike. That's right, I'm talking to you people. I take all comers.
You're sluts.
That's not very nice. The only rules, well, let's ask the best cooler in the business.
All you have to do is follow 3 simple rules. 1, never underestimate your opponent. Expect the unexpected. 2, take it outside. Never start anything inside the bar unless it's absolutely necessary. And 3, be nice.
So join the insanity and please vent your frustrations. I'm available on TalkShoe, iTunes, and Stitcher Smart Radio. And remember, here at the Sin and Beef Podcast, if you got beef, I've got the grinder.
Hi, I'm John Water. Yeah, hi, this is Dolph Lundgren.
Hi, I'm Lance Henriksen.
Hi, this is Keith Gordon.
Albert Pune.
Miguel Ferrer.
Nancy Allen.
Robert Davi.
Richard Elfman.
Ileana Douglas.
Patrick Warburton.
Zwingshauser.
Cliff DeYoung. Steve Railsback. Mr. T. William Cash.
If you haven't been listening to the Projection Booth podcast, you're missing out. Each week, the Projection Booth brings you in-depth discussions of some of the most interesting movies ever made. I'm Mike White. No, the other one. I'm the guy who wrote the film fanzine Cashiers to Cinemart since 1994. Since early 2011, I've been co-hosting the Projection Booth podcast. Try us, won't you?
I never try anything. I just do it.
Visit the Projection Booth at projection-booth.com.
Hello, please allow me a moment to intrude on your ears. My name is Ralph Santiago III, and I host the RS3 Feed brand podcast. You can find us at rs3feed.podbean.com. We're a wonderful little show that I think you would enjoy. We talk about all sorts of fun things that you may be interested in. Join me, along with a bunch of other wacky co-hosts that I bring onto my show. I think it's a really good time, and I think you would enjoy it. So please find us at rs3feed.podbean.com. Also on Twitter at rs3feed. I hope you enjoy, and now back to the podcast from the After Movie Diner. Thank you.
Good morning, good day, good evening, good night, and welcome to the After Movie Diner. And this week, they said it could not be done. They said the chances of it were literally zero, and yet tonight we have made the impossible possible. After months, nay years of legal wrangling, money being exchanged, and all sorts of sexual favors having to be done, we finally managed to lasso, pull, put in a cage and stick in the studio Mr. Marc McDonald, the host of the incredibly funny and should be nationally syndicated Schlock Treatment podcast. And it is my undying pleasure to say right here, right now, hello Mark, and welcome to the diner.
And this is where I leave, right?
And thank you. That was this week's episode of the After Movie Diner. No, but in all seriousness and without my stupid
Hello,
voice,
John. Thank you for having me.
It is a huge pleasure to have you on the diner. And I believe that, is it only the RS3 feed? Have you been on Nerd Lunch?
No.
So
no,
only
never.
the RS3 feed is the only other guest spot you've
Yes,
ever done?
he got me in a moment of weakness, much like yourself.
Yeah, I don't know how I did it. I think I was...
Caught me at a manic up day.
Yes, I think that's what it was. I think it's Samurai Cop and something to do with the
Samurai
begging.
Cop does lift my spirits tremendously. So.
Which we saw on a midnight screening just last night. But yes, no, I was knocking about today online, and I wasn't even sure I was going to put a show out this week. But then I was looking to get Scott Toomey and a bunch of other people, and it wasn't happening. And then I was like, I have no guest, and I really want Mark on the show. And I kind of
bitched and moaned about it.
I didn't. I privately tweeted you as a semi joke where I said, you know what, I have no guest on the show. Like, if you were a decent human being, you'd come do it, kind of thing. And you immediately started talking about...
And I did, despite the fact that I'm not a decent human being.
Right, I know, it's fantastic.
So it must be some ulterior motive.
Yeah, there must be, which is weird.
It's all of the great junk food that you keep at your house.
I do put on a spread. As anyone who's come to the diner before to do
amazing.
A show, I do just kind
Dear
of...
listener, let me tell you.
Yes, if you're ever...
And...
the chips. Dear listener, let me tell you, oh, the chips.
The million throng of chips that are all over.
Stop
it's
it.
Delicious.
See, what I've just gone and done is taken a sip of water and fucked up the back of my throat because it's gone down the wrong hole. Anyway, all this will be cut out.
I didn't fuck up the back of your throat, so...
Let's not go into that whole area, otherwise... That whole dark, twisted night of the soul.
Right.
But you started listing films on the private messaging thing that we had on Twitter, and although... private messaging always sounds a lot more sordid than it actually is. It just means not public.
It's just exclusive messaging.
That's a better word for it.
Cool people to talk to each other without other peons listening in.
Exactly. I like the way that
it's all about.
You cut right to the nub of the gist.
Big, huge,
important
moguls in the podcasting industry. We talk to each other secretly.
We do.
In dark rooms.
In hushed tones and loose whispers. Yeah. But when you started listing off films, and then it became apparent that mysteries were the big thing. And so...
I like mysteries.
You like mysteries. So let's briefly, before we talk about the film, let's talk quickly about that. Mysteries. When did the fascination with them start? What was your first kind of... Was it Poirot? Was it Sherlock Holmes?
Definitely Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes? Okay.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That was the first one?
Well, I read... every Sherlock Holmes story probably 10 times.
As a kid? Or?
It started when I was a kid and continued because I would look for other mysteries and they'd never be as good.
Did you look into any of the Hammett or Chandler, any of the American ones? Or was
I'm not crazy about the hard-boiled stuff.
Sure.
I'm more of a fan of British...
Which is why you're wearing your Deerstalker tonight.
That's right.
Yeah, and I've got a little wax mustache.
Exactly the reason.
And I'm chewing into some of Miss Lemon's cream buns. That's a Poirot joke for anyone who's ever seen
very
David Suchet's Poirot.
Although Miss Lemon is not a character from
in the books. No. But she is in the TV series.
The TV series, which is excellent.
Yes, so that he can say stuff like, Miss Lemon, your Battenberg is exquisite. Which he seems to say quite frequently. She's always bringing up baked goods,
when
I seem to remember.
Worrying horribly about having to go to the dentist.
Yes, right.
Which is every other episode.
Miss Lemon, bring me more meringue.
Not quite on a par with Sherlock Holmes.
No, who's injecting all sorts of...
I've read all those books, too. Mm-hmm. I've read all the Poirot. It's a pale imitation, but... I don't know, I just like something about the mystery...
Christie and Doyle, and... Are there any other British authors you like?
No.
Okay.
I mean, not that I've read. I'm not as well read as I pretend to be, so...
Nobody is.
Right.
That's the truth as you get older. You realise that no one is.
I'm also not as well watched as I pretend to be in film. At least I don't feel like it when I talk to you and Doug.
Everyone always says that,
who know every movie ever made.
See, I don't feel that way because I talk to a lot of people on shows and different podcasts and things like that, and I don't know what.
Well, they all managed to find. They managed to sound pretty erudite.
I figure like everyone has their area, and I think that
I know I have an area.
Right. It's about the 3 foot around your bed, and that's about it.
Not one that's shared with others much.
No, because the aroma is thick with this kind of acid that you expel on a frequent basis. It's just something to do with his genealogy. But what Although genealogy is not the right word, is it? Genetics is the right word. Something to do with your genetics. It's, I was going to say. See, again, I was trying to sound more intelligent than I actually am.
But back to mysteries.
Back to mysteries.
I also like.
Yes, sorry.
So my interest in Holmes and Poirot and that stuff bled into TV.
Sure.
So then it was like, Magnum PI, and then what I really liked was the mysteries from the 70s that they used to show on A&E all the time, like Columbo. And, which, love Columbo, watched every episode multiple times.
Do you even like the later ones?
They get worse.
The later films?
I am not under any illusion that they're as good as the first ones.
The one that stuck with me, because we just recently bought the box set, and the one that stuck with me that I remember seeing as like, I don't know whether it was a young teenager or whether I was just like 11 or something. It was early 90s. And that's the one that's at the Hollywood Film Studio where Fisher Stevens is in it as a film director.
Yes.
He has all these special effects to cover up. It's a really bad one.
But it's a bad episode.
I remembered it. I watched it. The detective work in it makes no sense.
That one's nowhere near as good as the one with Roddy McDowell as the guy who's a photographer and is on a campus for super intelligent people, and there's a little kid with a robot.
No, that's pretty good. But my other favourite one is the second show. Oh, no, both William Shatner ones are really good. The one where William Shatner plays an actor, in which way he's basically playing him. Yeah. And then there's one later on where he's playing basically Rush Limbaugh with a hilarious mustache.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, he's in two.
Is that really late?
Mid-90s.
Nowhere near as good as the Leonard Nimoy episode.
No, Shatner trumps Nimoy.
No. The Nimoy episode is fantastic.
Yeah? Does Nimoy wear a roll neck?
I believe he does, as a matter of fact.
Because the only non-Star Trek stuff that Nimoy's in, he wears a roll neck. in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, he swans around in a roll neck.
He was probably wearing a roll neck when he was narrating In Search Of.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
you can't narrate a show like In Search Of without at least one roll neck, a tweed jacket, and a pump. Man. Yeah. So anyway, we completely diverge into Columbo territory, but really, if you look at certainly those like 2-hour dramas or hour and 40 minutes after adverts dramas that Britain tends to do, you could spit and hit 100 different detective ones. There's Frost and Wallander they did recently, and there's Inspector Morse and Cracker. Well, Cracker's a psychologist, but basically the same kind of thing.
But it's another
Prime Suspect
drama mystery.
And all those. And do you watch all those kind of things?
Some of them, yes.
Cracker's fantastic.
I never actually watched Cracker.
Cracker's great. Morse is great. Prime Suspect I never got into, but since I've become a lot older and I appreciate Helen Mirren the way I do, I may have to go back and watch Prime Suspect, which I believe is on Netflix now. I think.
Prime Suspect?
It's on one of those, I think.
I don't know.
Anyway, so big into mysteries. Is there any, can you name maybe 3 or 4...
Oh my God.
Either films, TV episodes, or whatever it is, or books, because we are that educated here in the diner. Not. But, that...
We could fake it.
That if you want to, you're on the desert island or whatever you want to call it, you take those 3 or 4 mysteries with you.
Murder on the Orient Express.
Okay. The book or the film?
The film. I really like that movie.
No, so do I. Albert Finney is almost a... this is a question. Where do you put Finney versus Ustinov versus Suchet as
I would rank Suchet, Finney, Ustinov.
In that order?
In that order.
Yeah.
Suchet does...
I always put Finney at the top just because he's Finney.
He does a great performance.
Right.
He's a really interesting actor. He's great. But I felt like Suchet's portrayal is so perfectly studied.
It's like Brett as Sherlock Holmes.
Exactly.
As much as I love Peter Cushing, Brett is Sherlock Holmes.
Perfect comparison.
Yes, indeed.
Exactly the kind of thing I expect on the After Movie.
No, I've just, like you, I grew up definitely a fan of Holmes. I mean, Holmes was a thing, and I was of age as the Brett episode started.
Yeah.
I had just, my mum knew I was big into Holmes, knew I'd bought all the books and the collected volumes and even some of the stuff that was written much later by a cousin of Conan Doyle or something like that. There was some relative. I'd even got into that stuff. And so when that started every Sunday night, like my mum would sit me down and be like, we should watch these. And I think she'd read up that it was the most accurate and researched.
I loved
Holmes.
When I stumbled upon that show, I became obsessed with it to the point where I recorded it every week on VHS and like would painstakingly time my pauses to cut out commercials so that I could watch them in pristine condition afterwards. And I actually loved it so much it was a double bill with Lovejoy Mysteries.
Lovejoy.
And Lovejoy is ridiculous.
Insane.
But I actually love Lovejoy just because of its association. Like I now have
Holmes.
I now have nostalgia for Lovejoy.
Lovejoy made no sense.
It didn't make any sense.
It was
great.
It was like this slime ball. He's almost like the British Hasselhoff. That dude with the leather jacket and the curly hair, and he's in the world of antiquing, which doesn't go hand in hand.
That's what makes it so wonderful.
Yeah, because they've always got to work out a way to have some kind of slightly 70s looking, 80s hairdo blonde chick in the world of antiquing that he can kind of slime over, even though that wouldn't actually happen. They'd all be 80 years old and smell of tea.
Over. What a wonderful way to put that.
And then Tinker would have to come in.
He does always find some posh...
Right. Yeah, some posh bit of totty who's just lounging around at some...
on her estate
home,
somewhere.
Right?
And he comes in and tells her she's got some fake painting.
Yeah, right. And she's all like, I'm strangely attracted to your builder's leather jacket.
That's the difference between an American rogue and a British rogue.
Right.
An American rogue is rugged good looks and rough and tumble, and the British rogue is like rugged good looks, a little rough and tumble, but also charming and intelligent.
Sure. I don't know how intelligent Lovejoy was.
What are you talking about? He knew everything. He always had the leg up.
He knew everything because he happened to be 40 years younger than everyone in antiquing, and all of them had forgotten everything they'd known.
Shut up. I will not have you slander Lovejoy.
Ian McShane, who went on, of course, to be in Deadwood.
Yeah.
And hugely popular.
Great. I like that guy. I love that.
Sure, no, he's great as well. And I really like his character in Scoop. Not a lot of people like that Woody Allen movie, but I really liked him.
Never seen it.
But anyway, no, Ian McShane's a great actor, and Lovejoy is definitely... definitely one.
He tries to say with a straight face that Lovejoy is great.
With a guy who wears
you don't have to agree with me, John.
Three-piece suits and a beret the whole show. That's insane. Tinker, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't seen that since.
And young Eric.
Young Eric, right?
Who was the guy who Butcher's son that he was teaching the...
Because you have to have the little, like, Cockney scruff.
They have to have the one guy who doesn't know shit so that the other guys can expound.
What are you talking about, Lovejoy? Well, let me tell you, son.
He wasn't quite that.
No, he wasn't quite. He wasn't quite Artful Dodger, but he was almost there. Well, no, in fact, Lovejoy was probably Cockney, more the Artful Dodger, and then young Eric was more like Oliver. And then Tinker was kind of like...
You never watched this show, did you? You're full of shit.
No, I did watch it.
Eric was like a metalhead East Ender.
There was also one they did called Boone, which was equally ridiculous, but I forget. Michael Elphick was in it.
Who?
Michael Elphick, people will know, was the hunter, the gamekeeper in With Nell and I.
Oh, okay.
The big fat guy who goes
threatens
him with the eel.
Also,
goes, don't threaten me with a dead fish.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so yes, those British kind of things. And so how did you come across those? Was it mainly like Masterpiece and all that stuff that's on PBS, or was it when you were in Germany
definitely.
And things like that? Or
when I was in Germany, we were on an Air Force base, so
you didn't get any.
No, you had Armed Forces Television, which was tightly controlled, state-run media.
See the image I have of Armed
if you were
Forces
lucky, you
Television.
got an episode of the A-Team, followed by...
Because that's authentic Armed Forces.
No joke. Followed by MASH.
Nice, good. Another thing that is
And in
critical of
between,
the
they had this
military.
show that was called Gasthaus.
Gasthaus.
Which was, I don't know if it was local or if it was...
Hello, we are in the gas house.
It was like an interview show with this guy in lederhosen.
That's tremendous. Hello, my name is Heimlich. And here today, welcome. Tonight I'll be talking to this guy who was most definitely not in the Third Reich. Were you? You weren't anywhere near them. So yeah, that was great. I just thought Armed Forces Television would be like a PBS thing or a local, like a public access show that would be members of the Armed Forces acting out your favourite shows every day. So it would be like four other guys playing the A-Team.
It was Jack Black and...
But all filmed like in just some dingy studio with shit falling down. Oh, that would be brilliant, wouldn't
it? Was basically just... they decided what shows were appropriate to show.
As if being in the army wasn't shitty enough. You're not even going to come home to the barracks and be able to watch whatever the fuck you want.
And they had their own news and all that.
What do you mean sanctioned? Like, what is it that they're broadcasting on normal TV
I don't know.
stations?
I don't know that it was actually intended as a propaganda tool.
Sure.
It was probably more...
You're just implying it for the sake of
No, it was probably more a case of you're in a foreign country where you don't speak the language,
Right.
so we're going to provide content for you that's from the States.
Even though I'm sure there's probably like a European BBC channel or something.
Well, not in 1984, I don't think there was.
Although the Germans did like Monty Python. Monty Python made 2 specific episodes
They loved
for
Benny
German
Hill,
television.
so, I mean, there's good taste for you.
Yeah. Well, the Pythons always found it insane that when in America and in Germany and other places, they were lumped in with Benny Hill because both shows had tits. But it wasn't... The humour was completely different, but when I suppose other countries watch it, they watch and go, tits. They don't watch it and think this humour is vastly different. One is surreal and idea-based, and the other one is purely tit-based or bald man-based.
Do you watch them differently?
Yes, completely.
I don't notice any difference.
Because Benny Hill
it's
is
just people talking in funny British accents.
No, Benny Hill is a shitty rip-off of any silent slapstick comedian you can name, just with tits and bald men. And that's it. Whereas
I
Python...
just think it's British people talking funny
No.
and showing tits.
No.
It's exactly the same as Monty Python.
Oh, it's not. And you will be booted out of here shortly after we've spoken about the film in question.
The
so
fact
anyway,
that you believe that I actually thought that.
Well, look. If I questioned
insulted,
everything
sir.
you said with a straight face, we would be here all night.
You're right.
And we have been. What time is it? We've basically
It's
been
only
here all
4
night.
a.m., come on!
So...
The night is young.
So, you came over tonight and we were going to talk mysteries, and you brought some Giallo things.
Yep.
And I'd laid out all the mysteries, or basically ones that I kind of own that I thought you might
I think
dig or
you
might want to watch.
hand-selected somewhere around 400 films, yes?
So it was probably about 20. 20 or
It was
so.
a lot.
And anyway, we decided that a Giallo episode will be brought to the diner much later on because we didn't want to watch 2 films and then kind of research it. And, we would want to do a proper Giallo episode down the line.
Yep.
So,
I think that was your very presumptuous way of forcing me to come back for a second episode.
You like Giallo films. I like Giallo films. I don't know anyone else who watches them, so it'd be great.
Most people hate them.
It would have you back on the show.
Right.
But later on, at your own
Happy to
leisure.
come back.
Exactly. This is painless, right? This is just like you
great.
and I chatting in the living room. It means
It
nothing.
is.
Okay. So when we eliminated them, we eliminated some TV stuff because Mark was like, "No TV." He was like a real dictator about the whole thing. And then we eliminated.
Well, if I don't mind TV, but if it's going to be TV, then it should be Columbo.
Oh, is
or
that
The
what you-
Equalizer.
There's a whole show about
It's a whole
the
show on
Equalizer.
The Equalizer.
Just his blazers alone.
And Banachek.
Now you're talking Banachek right there.
Yes.
Yeah. Peppard.
Excellent show. Peppard.
Definitely. Yes, indeed. What did Gandhi say? Oh, no, he
You
was
mean
the one.
Gandhi?
Gandhi said about Western civilization he'd welcome it. Who was the guy who said two nations separated by a common language? Some other asshole. But anyway, or asshole. But that being stated, we eliminated down, and we came up with what film are we going to talk about tonight?
Shit, I've already forgot. We've gone on so long.
Come on.
Zodiac.
Zodiac, indeed. And how did we pick this in the end?
You forced it down my throat, basically. That's what happened.
Listen,
the film, the film! Get your mind out of the gutter.
Earlier that you didn't stick anything in my throat.
Crispy bread sandwich!
Stop it. Now you're doing a Matt and referencing your own joke. Only you're now referencing Matt's joke. Which will make Matt know, like, if Matt even listens to this. Which he won't, because he's not on it. So.
Exactly.
He
doesn't even listen to our show.
No. And he's on that
unless
every
he's on
week.
It.
More or less.
He might listen to the ones he's on.
Really?
I don't know, actually.
I don't know. Maybe he's the only guy
I wouldn't know. We never
listened...
talk, because we're not friends.
Oh, don't start this whole thing again. We're talking about Zodiac, which is a film from 2007, and David Fincher directed it. It's got a big old cast. You've got Jake Gyllenhaal, you've got Robert Downey Jr., you've
Mark
got
Ruffalo,
Anthony Edwards,
Brian Cox,
the wonderful Brian Cox, the
brilliant,
exemplary Brian Cox.
Wonderful word.
Who else do we have in the thing? We've got Chloe Svington, we've got I don't know her last.
Savigny?
Savigny?
Is that how it's pronounced? Yeah. I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, off Big Love. Anyway,
did you mention Anthony Edwards?
Anthony Edwards, I said. We've got Dermot Mulroney, clearly the weak link in the whole movie.
Who?
He plays the police chief, the one that's above Anthony Edwards and thing, and you didn't like him at all.
Not a fan. I thought it was beautifully cast, except for him.
Yeah, and who played Arthur Lee Allen?
John Carroll Lynch.
That's it, John Carroll Lynch.
Is a 3-name actor, played a 3-name serial killer.
Mm-hmm. Indeed he did. Well, allegedly.
Allegedly,
although he's dead now.
He allegedly played a serial killer.
No, he did actually play an alleged serial killer. But it all focuses around the Zodiac killings, which happened, they believe, in San Francisco between around San Francisco, Vallejo, Riverside. What's the other place? Forget now. Which I suppose are all suburbs of San Francisco or around there, I'm guessing.
I would assume so. Or Sacramento
and all that area. Because Sacramento PD was in on it as well. Between the years of 68 and 74.
Yeah, well, I think the movie goes as late as 83, yeah.
But, the movie goes up to 90-something, 91, 92, something like that, when he identified...
Oh, yeah, that's right, 90.
Yeah, when he
90 or 90 and a half.
Yeah, 90 and
For some reason, all of a sudden, they counted a half a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that, and the story basically tells the case that was never solved. But like most of these movies, in fact, on this watch, which must be about my fourth or fifth watch, it reminded me that really they do just tell the story of Arthur Lee Allen as the main thing. There's a couple of possible other suspects they sort of vaguely mention, but they don't go into a huge amount.
They pretty much nail it down to him.
Right. Which I presume, I haven't read it, but I presume Robert Graysmith's book does as well.
Must be.
Because that was his main prime suspect as well. But there are other movies, I'm thinking of like From Hell and JFK and other ones like this that are based on or skirt around the idea of a true life murder or murders that as movies show you multiple different possibilities before then nailing down
I'm trying to think of other serial killer movies, which I really like the genre, but I mean,
but not many of them are unsolved.
There's something fascinating about serial killers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is like your Jack the Ripper. I guess. A small amount of actual...
He's famous. There's Son of Sam and...
Well, no, it's just Jack the Ripper wrote to the police, just like Zodiac wrote to the Chronicle and other papers. Yeah, so it's kind of like your Jack the Ripper. There's certain similarities, but, a small amount of crimes over a small period disappears. Then there's, like, a multitude of different possibilities for who it could be, and there are other crimes that then get attributed to them or could possibly be them that either aren't or aren't whatever. So there's that certain similarity. But I'm like you. I was a guy who used to read, as well as reading mysteries, fictional mysteries, I would read like True Crime magazine and stuff like that. I went through that period of of being like 12 or 13 and being fascinated with these sort of
It's
real
interesting.
Life. Yeah.
It's a morbid interest, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I never got into the whole, like, death scene photos and shit like that. Like,
No.
a lot of people get into that kind of weird, morbid sort of side.
No, but those are the people who just want to... They watch Faces of Death.
All that kind of crap. Right. I never got into any of that. But I was interested in the idea of... And I've always sort of been interested in the idea of, I guess, sort of human psychology or whatever.
Right.
It is.
Not the broken psyche,
but not in the kind of...
weird motivations that drive...
Right.
strange compulsions like that.
And it's interesting that, like, basically where I am right now, my philosophy is that most people, or not, I would say all people, are crazy. That's like how I deal with the world right now, is to assume that most people are insane. Not that most people are serial killers, or not that most people are psychopaths, but the fact that I think more people are on the edge, close to tipping into some form of mania, whether it be just private mania or whether it be actual sociopathic actions, than most people would care to either admit or accept.
You mean like an obsession over film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or podcasting,
All
or
right.
putting yourself out there, believing anyone gives a shit. You know, that kind of stuff. No, I'm just saying that everyone, like, there's an id and an ego and a, compulsive.
It's a very personal after-movie diner.
Right. Oh, no, there's, like, bipolar aspects to everyone. Certainly creative people in various other... I'm just saying that people are weirder than... Most people grow up with this idea, and most people tell people that, like, there are the bad men that are these, like, weird, crazy loners.
Right.
Or, like, these zealots or whatever they are. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of us is just all this normal, law-abiding, happy-go-lucky. Right. Yeah. And I'm just saying that within the normies,
right, in
my office building alone, there are... 50 or 60, like, borderline nutcases I could point at.
There's dysfunction.
There's obsession, there's slightly crazy,
perversion, certainly.
Of course. You only have to look at the high court judges who really, in private, like to dress up in baby costumes and be burped by large-breasted women or whatever it is.
You only need to look at Rule 34 from the internet, and that's... pretty much covers it.
You're going to have to explain that to me, sir. I've not come across
Rule 34 says that if you can dream it up,
right,
somewhere there's porn associated with it
on
the internet.
Well, that's not just Rule 34. I remember reading something, I wouldn't know the reference of it, but I remember reading something when I was just a kid that basically said, like, if you can think of something, it's been done 1,000,000 times, 1,000 years ago, and, nothing's new under the sun. And it's why I've always been drawn to... something like, Python's probably the best example, but that idea that when you go back to, like, medieval times, you go back to, like, 2,000 years ago, so, like, the Jesus times or whatever. I don't know what it's called.
Jesus times.
You know what I mean?
That's a very technical...
Life of Brian. If you look at Holy Grail Life of Brian...
Bronze Age.
They treat people like the same kind of bitchy squabbles were going on back then that are going on now. And the idea that human nature really hasn't changed, and except the things that we bitch about have changed because technology has been introduced. But
it's probably changed a little.
But
it was
not
a lot more brutal
amount.
that back then.
Oh right, no, but it's more. But it would be. I'm saying is that we're all, I think, one incident or maybe two incidences away from being that brutal again.
Oh, you mean the old civilization is on the edge of a knife?
And half the world is constantly erupting in some form of violence.
As soon as anything happens, like, if there was any kind of outbreak or something, it would immediately...
No. I don't ever believe that there would be some global, epidemic that would cause everyone to go mental. But I think that there are...
I don't mean, like, the disease would cause them to go mental. I just mean the breakdown of society would result in people basically just becoming barbarians.
You only have to look at the fact that in North London, when the quote-unquote riot started...
Yeah.
About 10 of those people were actually to do with the incident that caused the conflict in the first place.
Right.
And the rest of North London going up in flames was just opportunistic looters and pillagers and assholes.
I suppose.
So, it's... Anyway, so we got off the point a bit, but like, I find Zodiac fascinating for that reason, I guess, and for the psychology of
I do find the psychology of the, I guess, serial killer interesting.
Yeah. And if you could see the look he's giving me right now, it's insanely creepy.
That's totally not fair. Because I can't tell. Am I really giving a creepy look? Or is he just saying that to egg me on? I don't even know.
I just imagine me editing that later with you saying, no, I am attracted to the serial killer, and just having underneath it... and like
no, I just think it's interesting.
I know, I'm kidding.
Did you ever see Citizen X?
I didn't see Citizen X.
With Donald Sutherland? That's another really good...
Does he wear a corduroy suit in it?
No.
No, that's probably why I haven't yet come across it.
Oh, okay.
If Donald Sutherland wears a corduroy suit, I've seen it. It's just... I have this whole theory.
He plays a Russian police inspector. So
of course.
He, of course, wears a military uniform.
Does he have a mustache?
I don't remember, actually.
Oh, damn it. Does he have his perm?
I don't have an eidetic memory for facial hair like you, for some reason. I'm sorry.
Sutherland, it's always important that Sutherland have some form of ludicrous facial appendage.
Anyway,
but to the film. So
Zodiac.
Dear editor, this is the murderer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl on the 4th of July.
I want you to print this cipher on the front page of your paper.
He wants his code in the afternoon edition.
Ray Smith, don't you have a cartoon to finish?
The Zodiac killer has come to San Francisco.
Another letter. School children make nice targets?
He gave himself a name.
Greek, Morse code, astrological signs. This guy's used them all.
I like killing people because man is the most dangerous animal of all.
How does one do that?
I like puzzles. I do them a lot.
Got any hard suspects?
About 90 an hour. I'm up to around 500.
You got 4 crime scenes, not a single usable print. You can't think of this case in normal police terms.
He's breaking the pattern.
Glenda said you were a cartoonist.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing at the gun range?
I just want to help.
What are you, some kind of Boy Scout?
Eagle Scout, actually. First class. Well, I've been thinking...
Oh, God save us all.
There's no evidence, Robert.
What do you mean there's no evidence? You have him seen with the ciphers, the military blueprints, the bloody knife.
All circumstantial.
Why do you need to do this?
Because nobody else will.
Dave, you made a mistake! Get away from the window.
Oh, are you okay?
No.
Why'd you do it? You put your face out there for him to see.
Hello? Who is this?
Zodiac was my job. It is not yours.
He's still out there, Dave.
Killing is his compulsion. It drives him. It's in his blood.
Jeez.
What?
Squirrels.
This is the Zodiac speaking.
I've begun.
I can give you a lift to the service station.
Do you always go around helping people in the night?
I'm not the Zodiac. And if I was, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
Are you sure there's nobody else in the house?
As we were watching the making of just a minute ago, Fincher in his lunacy went out of his way to make it at least as accurate in the surroundings as possible.
Yeah, apparently that's an obsession of his. But you know what? I kind of appreciate that.
Of course.
I have to say, I really like... one of the things I noticed from watching this is a period piece. It's kind of refreshing to see a period piece that's in a modern era and is...
Right. Because it feels contemporary, but it's in the 70s. And there was enough stuff around in the 70s that we still have now. But...
Right, and it's not about the period. Like, it's not... I mean, it is. It's set... The events are about the events.
They don't talk about Vietnam, though. They don't really bring up the hippies. They don't bring up civil rights. There's not like a whole bunch of Oliver Stone-esque stuff wedged in there.
They shoe in a few sound bites from the period
to show the time passing.
Show the time passing.
So Watergate happens.
Right,
and was it around then Watergate happens? When was Watergate?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because they had the Nixon saying, "I'm not a crook."
They had that long black period
right.
there where it was like.
By black, he doesn't mean. By black, he means black screen.
I mean, the screen went.
He's not being ridiculously racist.
There was that long black period before.
Where Fincher replaces the entire cast with African Americans, and for just one scene, they all speak in jive. There wasn't not that bit, you mean?
Welcome to the after movie Al Jolson Diner.
What Al Jolson?
Where John comes out in blackface.
Hello, my honey.
And does his mammy.
Yeah. Oh, mammy. So, but apart from that,
no.
Yeah,
but it's in the period.
Yes.
But the film itself
Localized.
is still a self-contained story. It's not right.
And it presents. What did the writer say? He said they only present scenes in which the Zodiac killer was seen by one of his.
There was an actual witness.
Right. The weird thing about
because they don't know what happened in the other scenes.
Right. So they don't put them in.
Right.
And they try and get as close to. You see, my only issue with it is I feel that as the movie goes on, it becomes more and more Hollywood and less necessarily accurate in its portrayal. And I'm talking about like his insane compulsion is the Robert Graysmith, the main character played by Jake Gyllenhaal. His main compulsion and but I felt like that whole thing. I'm sure his wife did leave him, and I'm sure like the obsessive stuff was like that, but they just do it in such a Hollywood way.
I guess.
And then there was the whole thing where he goes to the guy who wrote the movie poster, or finds out that the guy writes the movie poster, and then everything from that moment on, the one with Charles Fleischer in it, the Roger Rabbit scene, everything from
Roger Rabbit scene.
everything from that period on becomes amazingly eerie, even though really all he did.
Did that really happen?
Yeah. That's what I don't know.
That's a good question. I think it's probably dramatized to an extent.
That's what I mean.
But I mean, I don't blame him for that. Something's got to happen. It's difficult to portray a story where there's no resolution.
No, of course.
So, I mean, that they would even attempt to do a treatment of a story where nothing ever gets resolved.
And maybe there was a case about that guy, and we never saw it.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the actual real story.
Right. I don't know. I just heard something. Maybe, there might be a picture or something that we get. Zodiac. We get Boyds out there. Crazy Boyds, get off my air conditioning. But no. So that might be like an attempt to kind of go, but there's also this guy, just so that it wasn't like Arthur Lee Allen all the way through. The movie. And then I think
who was in the house
upstairs?
Yeah,
you never know.
I know. What was that all about?
That was super creepy.
It's creepy.
It's a creepy scene just to think about it. Like just to think about it, it's an eerie scene.
Being, I don't know, brought down into the basement of some stranger's house and seeing someone walking on the floorboards above. Yeah, that's creepy.
And then say, like, if there's someone else in the house, and instead of the answer being like, instead of the guy being like, oh yeah, I live with my mum, or whatever, or it must be the wife or the kid or whatever, the guy just goes, would you like to go upstairs and have a look? And at that point you're like, get the fuck out of the house. But I like the fact that through its like Hollywood, although there is obviously a lot of Hollywood traits and a lot of dramatization and whatever, it's there to be entertaining and enthralling and push the pace of the film, if not necessarily the story, forward.
It's the rare case of a film that's event driven and character driven at the same time, and it's also talking about something that's real. So I don't know. It touches a lot of buttons,
and obviously there's certain things. Crime scenes are incredibly well documented. So when it comes to recreating the crime scenes,
sorry,
that was someone outside just going up the stairs.
It just felt like the floor
I know, it goes to the floor. But that really bothered you, didn't it? That really bothered you.
I was like, what the hell? I'm on edge.
If this starts going, But that's really going to bother
It's a
you.
fucking serial
We
killer.
shouldn't have talked about the Charles Fleischer scene. If that curtain blows back now and someone comes through it in like a Zodiac hood with a fucking thing, you're laughing. But it would be so fucking creepy.
Pants.
It would be so fucking creepy.
But this is the thing. This is why
it got under your skin, right? It gets under your skin.
Mysteries, horror movies, all of those things. Like, I'm always really bothered by people who watch horror movies and they just sit there and they're like,
Yeah. They're too cool for it.
Right.
Fucking hate
And they're
those
like,
people.
I'm not scared.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm... Let me sit here. I get scared shitless in horror movies, and that's one of the reasons that I like them.
Yes.
Because they push my buttons. And sometimes they're so bad that I'm like, I love this movie, but I can't watch it because it kills me.
Right.
But anyway, and that's part of the appeal of the serial killer dramas is because
And the crime scenes you
creepy.
see, I mean, the car sequence with Ione Skye and the baby,
Yes.
that's creepy
Yes.
as all hell. And in fact, could be a movie by itself. Like the idea of like the guy who pulls over single women on the road and like undoes their tires and the whole
that's
bit.
like
that
a
could be like
Lifetime special.
Right. The highway killer. Or,
Give me back my baby.
No, it would be terror on the roads or whatever it would be. He seemed like such a nice man. But there's that whole bit. Which
that was very
really
urban
creepy.
legendy, actually.
Sure.
The whole, your wheel looks like it's loose.
Right. I mean, it's also unbelievable, but that's the other thing about the time difference is that, and you pointed out, like, the baby's just in the front seat, there's no booster seat, there's no seat belt, whatever.
Right.
You've got to accept, like, the funny thing is, it's really within our lifetime, there's been so much advancement in terms of safety and technology specifically, that really you look, although the 70s, it's only like 40 years ago, it seems like another planet in terms of innocence and,
It really does. And helplessness. Because if you think about it, any other... all of these things are not possible anymore with the advent of cell phones and, I mean, everyone's connected all the time, right? There's just no... You would go to a makeout point and people would sit in their car and you'd have an alarm on your car, you'd have...
Well, you wouldn't be making out anymore. You'd be tweeting each other.
Right. You'd be sexting.
Yeah, right. She'd sit at one makeout point in her car, and you'd sit at a totally other makeout point in your car.
You'd tweet pictures to each other.
Yeah, you'd sext each other, and and then you'd suddenly put it down and go, that was great. And then your brain would go, wait a minute, we could be in the same car doing this shit. Even better, we could be at home. Like, ignoring our fucking parents and doing this stuff.
Right. But, I mean, that's gone.
Right.
The highway thing is gone because it's like, shoot a hello, OnStar.
Right, exactly.
I don't know, something like that.
Right.
Assistance. It's really hard
You've got cars that talk to you now, so we're living in, like, Knight Rider terms now.
It's very difficult to be isolated in modern times.
Why has no one got that dude from Boy Meets World and Knight Rider to do a voice of a sat-nav? The guy who does the voice of Kit in Knight Rider, who's also, I believe, the neighbour in Boy Meets World.
Oh, William Daniels.
Why has he never been employed to do the voice of a sat-nav? Because wouldn't you love to drive along in a car and him just like, turn right now, Michael? Like, wouldn't you want that? That would be amazing.
Michael, what do you think of a stunt where I could somersault end over end? It's never been done before. Or better still, how about a flaming chariot? We could set my wheels on fire and do a jump. At night it could be quite spectacular, don't you think?
Michael, you've missed the U-turn.
Why have you pulled over here, Michael? Is it to talk to a blonde woman with hot pants?
What?
That's what Michael Knight, he used to drive along in the car and he would always pull over to help some woman in tight hot pant jean cut off short things bending over
because they'd be afraid people would
Camaro or something.
Let their car just drive they turn on cruise control and hear the car talk to them and they'd just be like, oh, that's it. They don't have to do anything else. Kit's driving now.
Right, yeah, they're worried that people will believe
what
they
made
really
you think
have
of that?
Because you were saying about all the technology that there is in cars these days that would make the scene in Zodiac impossible. But no, and then the other two murder scenes, the shooting is harrowing, but the one that gets me every time is the one at the lake.
Oh yeah, I think it's just because it's so...
Lake Berryessa?
I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I think that's the name of the...
I think it's because it's so simple.
It's
and it's almost inept. It's not played from a cinematic standpoint for horror at all. Like, it's not in a dark, scary... It's in a beautiful lakeside...
But that makes it more horrific.
Yes, absolutely.
Because when he says... What makes it the most horrific is that they get robbed, the guy comes out, and he's wearing almost a laughable costume.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He's got like a big Zodiac medallion that looks a bit like something the Bee Gees might have worn.
To be honest, if I saw that guy walking toward me in a park, I'd be like, what the fuck is this guy?
I wouldn't even still be lying down. I'd only have to see him over by the trees, and I'd be like, I'm running in the lake or some shit. I'm swimming to the other side. Fuck it. You don't even... Just a guy who looks funny. Just a hunchback or something. Or a cross-eyed fella. Or a guy with a milky eye. It doesn't matter. Like, if I see those people coming, I'm off.
Meanwhile, Marty Feldman's just vacationing in here.
Right.
Poor guy.
But no, the thing about it is, it's daylight. They're all alone. There's no one else.
Right.
It's not a busy place, so it's not like someone will be driving by. Because there's one point they get hogtied. And he's like, if you leave us out here, we'll freeze. It gets really cold here at night. And the first thing that goes through your mind is, shit, yeah, no one's going to drive past and see them. No one's going to be like coming down to this park after this point. Yep. They're going to be lying out there. There's nothing, like if you're hogtied, there's absolutely no way for you to kind of get out of that unless that happens to come loose. So that's scary enough. So you're lying there getting that scary enough as it is.
Definitely helpless.
Then you see him stab him in the back, and it's although it's utterly bloodless, to me it's horrific.
Yes, absolutely.
And then because you immediately put yourself in the perspective of not only him but then his wife or girlfriend or whatever witnessing it.
Yeah.
And
the moment where it goes from, oh my god, the worst thing that could happen is he'd leave us here overnight, to, oh my god, I'm getting fucking stabbed.
Right. And then the really horrific bit, which is where he stabs the woman, not only in the back, which is... I mean, being stabbed in the back, I mean, you just... Of all the...
stabbings in general.
Yeah.
Like, that's far enough for me.
But then Fincher, I think in the director's cut, not in the actual cut, because I don't remember it in the theatre, but in the director's cut even has the bit where he flips the woman over and stabs her like 3 or 4 times in the gut. Which, those 2 killings where it's a couple, he doesn't kill the guy. He pays more attention to the woman in both cases. Right. But it's a fascinating case. I mean, I don't... we could go on and on about, like, who we think it is, blah, blah, blah. Do you remember growing up, like, was it something that was ever talked about in the States or mentioned a lot, or...
Zodiac Killer?
Yeah, was it ever a big thing?
I think it had died down by the time I was old enough to know what the hell it was.
Right. So... I mean, do you remember the book coming out in the 90s, or...?
No, not at all. But, I mean, I dn't really roll in those circles. So
right.
I
just wonder because, like, I don't know, the few things that we have happen in our in England are like told over and over and over again 100 times. Like Jack the Ripper, there must be I don't know how many fucking.
It's a smaller area, though. I mean,
sure.
California is 3.
Plus, you have serial killers every other week, right?
So 5,000 miles away. So
right. But it is the thing that we read about. Like, if you read those true crime things, sure, there might be some Victorian stuff that kind of is Jack the Ripper-esque.
It was still enough that you would know the name if someone said it.
Right. But most of the serial killers... It was in the consciousness,
but it wasn't like something that kids stayed up at night going, ooh, the Zodiac's gonna get you, or something like that.
No, I just wondered because it was never solved whether it was something that kind of hung about. But
probably it did, but not with people my age.
But it's always something that's mentioned about the States more than any other country. Not that I know particularly the true crimes of other countries, but the idea of the serial killer is almost uniquely American.
Right. Almost, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's Jack the Ripper, but the funny thing about Jack the Ripper is there's even a theory that he was either in America or escaped to America after he was Jack the Ripper, because there was a whole bunch of murders that happened in a place called Whitechapel in the States as well, and I forget which city also has a Whitechapel here. I think it may have been Boston. Don't know. But there's something around there where there was a series of killings after the Jack the Ripper killings in the States.
Oh, I don't know about it.
Yeah. So
I know the most prolific serial killer of all time is actually Russian. So
right. Okay. No, I'm sure other countries have it. It's just there's a certain thing
but
about...
there are more in the U.S., definitely.
Well, and I think it's interesting, like, the music...
It's also a 20th century thing.
Sure.
Aside from Jack the Ripper.
There's a music, there's a lot of that, like, 60s music in the movie, obviously, because it's of the time. But there's also that link to a lot of the things that are Americana tend to hover around and intertwine serial killer stories as well. I don't know why that is, but in my mind, they're all kind of linked. I think it's maybe the idea of, like, the traveler or the
deserted road,
that whole business.
I mean, a lot of that is pretty...
Like the Midwest Americana, not so much the coast, not so much like the California or the East Coast or whatever, but like not even that, like the Badlands type.
Oh, right.
Natural Born Killers, Ed Gein in his farmhouse somewhere, you know what I mean? Like it's
Texas Chainsaw
type
kind of thing.
All seems sort of wrapped up.
Well, there's a lot of space in America, so there's a lot of rural.
Right. Well, we had the Yorkshire Ripper. That was something that happened in our rural community in the UK as well. But I don't know how many people he killed. But to the film,
sure he doesn't stack up.
No, I'm sure he doesn't. No.
But that doctor too, right? Who was the doctor who poisoned all his patients?
Crippen, Dr. Crippen.
Yeah.
But I have to say, one of the things I liked about it, because I guess you see so many true life stories that are hugely embellished.
Yeah.
And are just utter bollocks. I mean, I think there was a whole Lifetime series that was based on a true story. Right. This magical thing happened. That's not true at all, is it? This doesn't feel like that. This feels like you could actually talk
pretty
with
understated,
some... But it feels like you could talk with some authority on the Zodiac killings after seeing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, probably.
Because there's so much in it that...
I'm sure there's a lot more.
Of course. And I'd almost be fascinated in a
Right.
If he'd made it into...
Like we were saying, they clearly picked a winner.
Right.
They kind of followed that, I don't know, horse.
Yes.
And then they ignored everything else. So.
Yeah, completely.
So, there's probably some selection bias there, but...
And I don't know either if there is another movie to be made, like JFK, where you show all the suspects and all the things.
Yeah. It could be this guy.
Right. Or whether there's an HBO... Would it have been
Clue.
Interesting? Right.
Where it's
exactly,
that's the way it could have happened.
Where at the end of the movie, Tim Curry runs around and goes, well, it could have been Arthur Lee Allen, but really... And then, yeah, it could have been like that.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, of course. The killer really is Madeline Kahn. End of movie. That could have been the end if you want to go for the Mel Brooks slapstick.
Yeah.
End of the movie, Carl Reiner end of the movie. But what was I saying? I was saying something about... Oh yeah, or if Fincher had slightly more money and slightly more time, the idea of doing an HBO thing where you had 6 parts or 4 parts or something like that, where you could... Because the movie's long anyway, the director's cut's 2 hours, 30 minutes or whatever.
Right.
But... and you wouldn't want to sit much longer watching it. But it does race on by. It doesn't feel long to me. It doesn't feel slow to me. It feels gripping and
It doesn't feel that... It is slow. It's not action-packed.
No, but I mean that you get engrossed in it, so it seems to...
Right. It doesn't feel long, though.
No.
But it's also really great to look at. I mean, the whole film is shot beautifully, I think.
Yes. Well, let's talk...
It's just dripping with atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that then. Let's off the case and more about the film. One of the things you loved about it, apart from one scene I noticed, no shaky cam. Talk about
Yes, love it. Well, I really think it's overused. And it's actually... It goes back to the scene that we were just talking about on the beach there, or on the lake. If you look at horror movies now, if you look at any kind of suspense film now, everything is a trick to frighten you.
Yeah.
It's all about having something jump out at you, having something, they're not really scaring you with content, they're scaring you with a trick.
Right. It's not an idea anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not an idea. They're making, everything is gray and dripping, and there's a girl with long hair hanging down in front of her face, looking creepy in a dark room. So, okay, that's scary, but
I always feel like
this is scary for real reasons. Like, this is actually touches a place.
That could be me and Dory. That could be me and my wife.
Yeah.
Lying on a...
And I think it's so much better.
And what's interesting is I've always personally found, although I've got no problem being away from people in general, I have always found that idea of, and it's only happened maybe 2 or 3 times in my life, but like, you go somewhere like a beach, or you go to a lake, or you go to a woodland or something, and when you get there, there's lots of people milling around and blah 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 blah, and they're talking whatever because it's a tourist spot or it's a regular spot for families, and then it gets to like around 4 or 5 p.m. and suddenly you're aware that you're the only people there, and it's just you and whatever, and you've got like a mile walk back to the car, whatever it is.
Right.
And it's only happened a few times, but like when you suddenly sit around, you're like, oh, okay, there's no one else around.
Yeah.
And there was
Something
other people
happens,
around.
I'm screwed.
Right. But that in itself is scary.
Yeah.
When you add all the other shit, it's even more petrifying. But and broad daylight is broad daylight on your own, somewhere isolated. That's kind of scary.
It can be if it's portrayed the right way, and I think that is more skillful filmmaking to me than someone who just has a big fucking zombie monster jump out at you from behind a curtain, you know, or something like that.
It's odd how horror has gone back to being theatrical in a weird way.
It really has.
Because horror started off theatrical with like people having to do lighting tricks and monster tricks and various other things to thrill and excite the audience.
Thinking of the way the film is shot, which you just brought up, the shaky. This is one of the reasons I hate shaky cam, because it's a shortcut. It's a way for them to say, "Ooh, this scene is action packed and tense because everything's shaking around and you don't know, it's frenetic. Like you can't tell what's happening, and
when really it's
somebody might be getting murdered right now and you can't tell because everything's shaking the fuck around. But when the camera's pulled back and it's still and it's silent and you're just seeing the action unfold in front of you, there's no doubt you're watching exactly what's happening.
Right.
And he still manages to make it gripping and intense. And the scenes where, Gyllenhaal is running out of the house. Like he's not being chased up the stairs by a cameraman as he runs out of that guy's house.
Right.
But it's still tense as fuck.
And when he goes down to the basement, the light isn't like flickering on and off and fizzing, and
it's dark.
It's not Dutch angles, and
it's still believable.
It's a realistic basement.
Exactly.
If you go down to a basement, it's not.
They're not well lit,
right? But also, you don't turn on. What was the movie that I was watching the other day? And it was meant to be like a realistic movie or something, and the lights were like flickering and shit. And I was like, well, lights don't do that.
Yeah,
a light bulb blows out or it's on. I mean, it doesn't. There isn't a point where like electricity suddenly becomes scary. It's just,
sometimes at the point when it's about to blow, it'll flicker on and off, and then it'll go.
Right.
That's it.
But this wasn't even done as a supernatural thing. This was done as something scary is about to happen. So all of a sudden, and this was something that was purporting to be realistic.
Yeah.
Something scary is about to happen, so all of a sudden the camera is on a swivel and the lights are all flickering and there's rain hitting the window, even though 5 minutes ago it was like a sunny day. And you're right. It's like what they would do.
They're cheap tricks.
But it was cinematic language back in like the 30s and 40s when they were experimenting with horror movies,
right.
And when it was predominantly monster movies and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot of like realism to film.
Right.
It was like genre film. It was a gangster film. Or it was a detective film. Or it was a monster film. Whatever. And we seem to be going back to that. We don't seem to be... And yet, what's ironic about it is that all you hear directors talking about now is how realistic they're trying to be.
Yeah.
We're trying to be cinema verite. We're trying to shake the camera out so it looks like a documentary.
Yeah, right.
And it's horseshit.
And
it's
it
not
actually
realistic
makes it
at all.
worse to me. I guess I'm probably more sensitive to it than most people, because we've even had movies that you and I have watched.
Right.
That it bothered me and it didn't bother you.
Right.
You're like, that's not that bad. It's just
It's
they're
not,
going over
right.
bumps or something, and I'm like, that drives me crazy. But yeah, I just miss it. I guess having grown up in the 70s with the film era where everything was Steadicam and dollies and big wide
If someone
vistas
somewhere on the line forgot that we have Steadicam.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
we had handheld, and they were like, Jesus, this handheld's annoying.
What was the movie I saw recently? There was when the Hunger Games came out.
Right.
And we went to see it for work. Like, we got a screening.
Sure.
And, like, the first 10 minutes of the film, it's her walking around in the fucking forest.
Right.
Like, there's no action, there's nothing happening. They don't need to portray a sense of uneasiness. Like, it's supposed to be this pastoral moment.
Sure.
And it's all done with this handheld, shaky cam, vomit-inducing bullshit. And I'm just going, why?
Yeah.
Why does every scene have to be like this now?
I just went to see Man of Steel, and I'm not going to go off on a rant of that. You can read it at aftermoviediner.blogspot.com.
I've heard about it, actually. Someone at work was talking.
But there is a flashback scene in which Pa Kent talks to adolescent Clark by a pickup truck. That's the scene. It's a dialogue scene. It's like 3 minutes long, and the cameraman looks like he needs to pee. The camera is vibrating. It's not just shaking, it's vibrating. And it's not only done like there's shaky cam, like what you're talking about, like when they're trying to heighten the excitement of the scene.
Yeah, right.
And therefore there's a lot of people running around, and the fact that the camera shakes is meant to be, like I say, cinema verite and documentary style and whatever.
And I understand the reasoning for it in cases like that. I don't necessarily think it's
like it or
needed,
agree it. No.
But I understand. At least there, I understand what they're trying to do.
Sure. But in this particular scene, like I said, it's a father and son moment by a pickup truck. You couldn't get it more like rural and
it should be a long shot across a field with the sunset coming down.
Right.
Or something.
And we'd recently watched Superman the motion picture, the original one.
Yeah.
I'm saying that for Doug because he noticed that during my Superman episode I referred to it as Superman 1 the whole time.
Oops.
He got very annoyed by that. Superman the motion picture. He didn't get very annoyed. I don't know why I'm saying that. It's a pure exaggeration. He sat next to me in the cinema last night.
He got as annoyed as Doug
as
can
does
get.
Right, exactly.
Which is to go...
He called it Superman 1. Never mind. I'll forgive him and watch Samurai Cop. The Superman the motion picture. And that's all the Kansas stuff, all the Smallville stuff, it's all long vistas. It's all wide shot. That film is shot like, Ben-Hur or one of those epics. It's shot like an MGM fucking classic from the 50s. It's a real expansive, widescreen, soft focus, everything in the frame type movie. I mean, Donna really shoots it like an old musical almost. I mean, it's really great. And
which I guess call me a traditionalist, but I like that personally.
Sure.
I
like
like
it as
when
long
you
as
can see everything that's happening, when you can...
Right.
And you've got the full palette of colors, like as opposed to, only blue.
Right.
For the whole film.
Right, exactly. And I think that what Fincher does, although he does undoubtedly also have a box of tricks and quirks and obsessions and... OCD, and I don't agree with this whole idea of doing 50 takes. I don't understand that. But then Kubrick did it. Look at what Kubrick made.
Right.
So,
I mean, I can't argue with his results. When you look at the performances that he pulled from the actors in his movies, not a single one went amiss.
Right.
With the possible exception of, what was his name?
Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah.
Who's fucking awful in everything.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, even he was passable. I just was like,
he had no part, though. He has no part.
It was barely a part, right.
Right. He had to show it.
Also, the Roger Rabbit guy was a little...
But Fleischer was put in there purely to be, here's Mr. Red Herring. I mean, he could have been dressed as a red herring.
But he's a little too recognizable a character actor. I feel like it would have been better played if they just put somebody in who was just a regular somebody.
Right.
He jumps out way too much as like, really? What is
well,
it?
Like,
that could have been a great strategy.
That could have been a great opportunity for like an unusual cameo. Nick Cage, for example, could have been brilliant in the role. I don't know why. Or Christopher Walken or someone could have shown up.
Right. Yeah. Peter Weller.
See, now Weller would have been perfect in that role. I would have loved Weller in that role.
But not James Woods.
My only not James Woods. Not James Woods. Because James Woods would have been like, do you want to see in my basement? Come down in my basement! It would have all been like
James Woods chewed the fuck out of the scenery and ruined the entire scene.
He didn't do the posters, Bob. I did the posters. It would have been like that. It would have been a whole thing if it was Woodsy.
Yeah.
If it was old Jimmy Woodsy.
No, I mean, it was fine.
Sure.
And it was the same with the police captain guy.
But I like the way that... I like the way that without any noticeable shift, he was able to make something creepy without any noticeable
Yes.
now. There wasn't even like a soundtrack cue. It wasn't like they went downstairs and the soundtrack suddenly went dun, dun. There wasn't some big thing, which again is something that happens in Man of Steel.
That's funny. They really didn't go for that at all.
No.
And I mean, from the angle of the reshoots, the takes, the multiple takes. I mean, I guess, like I say, he got good performances out of everybody. And I feel like his attention... I appreciate a director who has an attention to detail about minutia.
Right.
Like, I don't begrudge somebody caring about, I want this book to fall into this position and open on this page or whatever. I mean, like, if he has to take 20 shots to do that, I don't mind. If he wants it to look just a certain way, I can actually appreciate that.
No, I know. I mean, I get that.
Like the scene in the with Robert Downey and Gyllenhaal in the shooting range,
right?
Which I pointed out to you when he pulls off they have the protective hearing things on.
Yeah, the headsets,
whatever. I don't know what they would be called, but and
earmuffs.
Yeah, and Downey is shooting away, firing away, and then he turns and says some dialogue, like they're saying some dialogue back and forth, and Gyllenhaal actually pulls the earphone off of his ear so that he can hear him talk, which is something you would never... Like, I feel like that's the kind of thing that most directors would be like, no, don't bother with that.
Right.
We just need to get through this dialogue.
Right.
You know?
No, I mean, there's a lot of attention to detail in like sets and surroundings, so that you don't have that thing now. So much nowadays. Although there is a big scene that's shot for location reasons on with a lot of blue screen on a set, but most of the things that you're watching are for real done.
Right.
And there are certain things that you do as a human being when you are surrounded by certain things that you just wouldn't do if the desk wasn't really there, or if the backdrop wasn't really there, if the window wasn't really open, or whatever.
Oh yeah, this is Lucas's problem all over.
Right.
His actors can only stand and walk and talk to each other because there's nothing to interact with.
Right, exactly. And it's like Peter Weller was... Wait, I don't know if you bring up Peter Weller, but we've mentioned on the show before, he gives a very eloquent speech on this video on YouTube about like how much easier it is, or not how much easier it is, but how much better it is for an actor to be like in the scene. And he said whenever he does directing now, he does a lot of TV directing and stuff, where he can, he tries to have the actor doing the driving and have the old style camera mounted on the actual car, or a rig with a camera on it driving by the car, because he gets endlessly annoyed by driving scenes in which the driver is sat talking to the passenger, never looking out the window, never checking his mirror, never like doing the things you would do.
All of the subconscious movements you make when you're driving a car, it's very hard to imitate that.
Right. And like people who seem to spend hours like fiddling with the radio while they're fucking...
It's like some movie I saw where, what the heck was it? It showed somebody drinking from I can't remember what it was, but they were drinking from a glass.
Right.
And it just looked really fake. And
like, they purposely did it, yeah.
I'm like, why didn't they just put actual liquid in that glass and have them drink from it? Like, it just looked retarded.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it was at a TV show or something.
It's almost like if you're going to have a mug of hot drink, have a mug of hot drink, so that you don't just gulp it down like it's water.
Instead of making it look like you're drinking something hot and go...
The worst thing is alcoholics in movies, the way they knock back vodka as if it doesn't affect you because you've had horseshit. I don't matter how much vodka you've had, if you take a shot of the stuff, especially if it's like the fire
make
water
a face.
crap, you're going to make whiskey face. Even hardcore alcoholic whiskey drinkers with the big red Irish noses make the whiskey face.
Yeah.
It's a renowned face.
The whiskey face.
But these people who are knocking back like iced tea or apple juice that's meant to be whiskey, it's never
and do nothing.
Yeah, right. So no, there's a lot of that. You're right. There's a lot of that in Zodiac, and Fincher's doing the 40 takes and setting it in real surroundings. That you're right. Give an element of realism to the performance.
And I appreciate that. And it's just like you're bringing up the special effects, the CGI that he used, and the process shots and the green screen and stuff like that. I feel like he uses it the way that it should be used. It's sparingly. It's seamless. It's not
It's for background. It's not foreground.
Right. It's not for exactly the central thing that you're going to be looking at. It's for something in the back.
Yeah. He's doing it because he tried to get permission to film on Washington and Cherry where the murder took place, and everyone in the neighborhood went, nah, fuck off.
Right.
So
I guess it's a ritzy neighborhood or something.
And full of Cockneys, clearly. If they all went, nah, fuck off. No. But no, yeah, it's a ritzy neighborhood. They didn't want their neighborhood like reassociated with the crime. They didn't blah blah blah. They didn't want like a bunch of movie finders or whatever try and come and find the scene and a lot of tourists and things. Because I'm sure the people who live, like I went when I was in California to the where Halloween was filmed. The two babysitting houses opposite each other, Laurie Strode's house and the house where PJ Souls and whatever are, and Annie is. Before Annie gets strangled in the car outside, and they're right opposite each other, and I'm sure they get pissed off as all hell with people coming around and taking photographs of their house and blah 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 blah. Whatever.
Probably.
So, but I did it anyway. Because I've come all the way to California to do it. But so they had to do it on a studio set, and they had to do it with blue screen. But it's apart from that, he does it realistically where he can. And the other movie, it's also to set it in an era because, I remember that a lot of sort of digital replacement we never even see. It's stuff like getting rid of satellite dishes or getting rid of phone lines or getting rid of whatever. All this stuff that we don't even consider on a day-to-day basis, or getting rid of brickwork that wouldn't exist back then. Or
when they put the helicopters in that one scene, that was clearly... post-production,
right,
and stuff like that. But it's seamless. Like it doesn't take you out of the film.
The helicopters don't shoot lasers, or change color, or
right. And it's a 5-second clip. It's not the whole thing. And everything that can be done practically is done practically.
Right.
Well, meanwhile, my favorite example is Exorcist: The Beginning.
I haven't seen that one.
It's not worth it.
No, there are two versions of it as well, right? There's Schrader's version and...
Oh, I don't know, actually.
Yeah, there are.
I saw it when it came out, and there's a scene in there where it shows a dead body with flies buzzing around it.
Right.
And they actually put CGI flies buzzing around the scene.
Right.
And it looks awful.
Of course.
You're just like... You couldn't actually get flies to hang around some rotting meat? Like, come on. How fucking hard is that to do?
There's even insect wranglers. They exist.
Exactly.
You can hire them on set.
I mean...
But then they're normally people called Nigel who show up and are a little overweight and a little weird. Like, whenever you see them on the making of, they're always like, yes, I wrangled a spider. They're always these weird guys who, like, hang out in their basement with cockroaches and spiders and come to me, my pretty. They're always, like, weird little people. And if I was a director, I'd probably be like, yeah, let's not hire that guy.
Hey, who ordered the flies?
Or there's either that, or there's some Australian dude who thinks he's like, yeah, I've got a tarantula who could take your neck out. They're normally like they're either really sort of masculine kind of, yeah, I lived 20 years in the bush. Like, I got this snake and I call it Alan and I put it out. Like, they're either those guys or they're little nerdy kind of...
No, but it's one of those guys, but instead of big, scary animals, it's always really stupid things. Like a hamster.
I've got this chaffinch. It's the most dangerous chaffinch in all of Australia.
What the fuck is a chaffinch?
It's a bird.
Never heard of it.
Maybe it's just a British bird, but it's a bird. I've got this penguin. Don't go near it. It's violent as all hell. Penguin will take your eye out. So maybe that's why they had CGI flies, because of those guys.
I hadn't thought of that.
They didn't want some...
But from a critical perspective,
sure.
It sucks.
Well, they shouldn't do CGI animals unless it's like in the distance. Unless it's like 12 monkeys with the lion and the giraffes running through Philadelphia and shit like that.
Right.
They shouldn't do CGI people because it's fucking weird.
Never works.
Yeah,
all those World War Z shots that I keep seeing. With people clamoring over each other like they're fucking...
The problem with World War Z, that was actually fine. The problem with World War Z was that it was just boring.
I didn't see it. I've never
seen a movie with such expansive large set pieces as the walls of Jerusalem with the zombies teaming up them and the whole bit and things being, and just watching it and going, whatever. Like, it's just so... Pitt has no kind of character. There's no point to much of any of it. And it seems to be a movie completely backward because all the so-called exciting big set pieces happen in the first act and the beginning of the second act.
Because that's it. It's all about the set piece. That's what Hollywood has grabbed onto is, we need the movie that has, like, after Lord of the Rings, every movie had to have a giant sweeping battle with two huge, enormous armies crashing into each other. Yeah. That was in every fucking movie for the next 4 years.
They just had The Immortals came out last year or the year before.
Yeah, and it's the same shot. It's always...
Or John Carter, or whatever it was.
Yeah, right. They got to do that in everything now.
Yeah, well, that's all the third act of a superhero movie is CGI things hitting each other. In every, no matter how good it is, even Iron Man, as good as Iron Man is, the last act is CGI Jeff Bridges and CGI Robert Downey Jr. hitting each other.
It's true.
Because that's all superhero movies devolve into. Because it's, I'm your big arch nemesis. Now I'm in a big CGI uniform, and now I hit you, I hit you, I hit you, I hit you.
It really is, actually.
Everything.
There's not much more to a plot of a superhero
At least,
movie.
like, everyone can, like, I think there's been some sort of post-Avengers people who have been like, well, actually, Avengers wasn't as good as everyone made it out to be. But actually, I would say the reason why Avengers is better than most of the others is while it is CGI things hitting each other, there are character moments within that whole bit that matter, make sense, and not only that, will set up stuff for future character bits. Whereas you can't really say that about the Abomination and the Hulk just destroying the Bronx in a big CGI battle or whatever.
Right. Or if you think of like an X-Men movie where they're like, oh, let's just have a big battle next to some major...
Statue of Liberty! Lasers!
Pick a monument, we'll have a battle next to it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We already did the Statue of Liberty, so let's do the...
Isn't it Golden Gate Bridge?
Golden Gate Bridge,
yeah. Nice.
So lame.
But anyway, back to Zodiac. I mean, I love it.
Speaking of Robert Downey, actually,
what did you think of him? I think, he's Robert Downey. Robert Downey is Robert Downey is Robert Downey. And
you know what? I'm fine with that.
Oh, completely fine with it. Actually,
because RDJ is my man.
He plays it like a strung-out Hunter S. Thompson.
He does a little bit.
Kind of. He plays him like the... If there's a stereotype of a reporter in the 70s working... on his own, kind of, on the fringe.
The hard drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like all the... Even in something like Almost Famous, where the guy's a kid, all the other reporters from, like, the 70s and the 80s are all these kind of long-haired, leather jacket, alcohol-infused guys who are just kind of sitting around in offices going...
A little bit sleazy.
Yeah, right. And Danny
but
Jr.
also a
plays
little
that.
bit heroic.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it shows how, like, in the Chronicle, the old boy network of, like, the editors who are all these old, crusty white dudes with suits and...
Right, with white starched shirts and ties.
Right, and then you've got, like, the Downey Jr. and the Gyllenhaal and, like, these guys who are a little bit more, either a little bit nerdy or quirky or... a little bit more kind of, I'm kind of... You imagine Downey Jr.'s character probably attended a few civil rights rallies, probably, like, hung out, interviewed the Black Panthers, probably... You've just got that image of him kind of hanging out with this fringe sect. You never see it, but that's kind of the way he dresses.
Yep.
Through the time, you see him go from, waistcoat tie, very smart office attire, to the... denims, and then the kind of Che Guevara hat and the whole...
has a hell of a transformation. It's a little over the top.
It is a bit. I mean, one thing I would have to say, the big failing, and I noticed this again this time, is while they pay incredible attention to detail to the background, and while the costumes may change, the facial and specific hair appearance of the main actors do not change in like 10 years.
Yeah.
In fact,
except for Downey Jr.
But his hair stays the same. They just spray it grey.
Yeah,
it's still him.
It goes grey.
It's not like they could have said to Downey Jr. like wear a wig Or, because fucking Anthony Edwards is wearing a wig throughout the whole thing,
That's
so it's
true.
not like they're anti-wig.
Right.
Unless it's only for
But
people
he's
who are
bald, so...
Anthony wig.
No, that's no good.
Okay, fair. As keeper of the chest of puns, I do not allow that one. Next.
Fail. But yeah, and they frosted what's his name too?
Ruffalo's hair, and then stopped frosting it, and then
he got frosted and defrosted,
which was really weird.
Yeah, it was a little strange. And the other guy ages a lot too. One of the other cops.
Although what was weird about Ruffalo's character, because I was saying about like people keeping their hair and the same, when you see Dave Tusky, the guy on set now, when they were making the movie, he looks exactly the same but with white hair. I mean, like he clearly has not changed his hairstyle, so maybe that was. Although what
accurate.
I noticed was that James LaGrosse, who's like the deputy dude to Mullinex in Vallejo, guy who then comes back later in the future and interviews the one guy who survived from the crime at the airport and shows him the pictures. Yeah. And I pointed him out because he's in Phantasm 2.
That's right, the guy from Phantasm, right.
And earlier on in the movie, he's just like a deputy hanging around the desk.
Yeah, he
says, what's he trying to do?
For him.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
Right. His hair is exactly the same 15 years later at the airport as it was when he was a deputy behind the desk. There's no attempt to podge him out and give him a stomach, which most men invariably get when they get older. Yeah. There's no attempt to give him like grey hair or short hair or
balding
or anything. So
which most men also tend to get.
So what I'm saying is that's the only thing that doesn't ring true to me in the movie. That's
fair.
But you see,
the makeup was a little.
It's also a decision though, because you've seen those other movies where like someone 20-something plays the character from when they're like 14 through to 80.
They did do that with the first victim guy. They aged him out.
As a different actor?
No, same guy.
No, different actor. Completely different actor. The first victim guy you see shot on July 4th in the car, totally different actor.
And the guy they bring in the...
Yeah, totally different actor.
No, it's the same dude.
It's completely different actor, I promise you. Completely different actor. Completely different actor.
Really? Because he's got really heavy makeup. Like if they're going to cast
No, that's how that actor looks. The guy who plays him in the future, I've seen him in other stuff. That actor just looks like that. He has patchy beard hair and he has patchy hair on his head.
Oh, he totally looked made up.
No, that's just how he looks. I've seen him in other movies. He looks exactly like that.
All right. Well, clearly I can't spot a badly made up guy because...
But I always think of Back to the Future 2.
It's just a guy who, in reality, looks like a badly made up guy.
But I always think of Back to the Future 2, which has the most horrendous, like, aged makeup for its 20-something cast.
Yeah.
You know, like Biff. Although Biff's makeup's not bad, but
they
like
try
old
to make
Marty,
Leah Thompson look old.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
She's got like these big plastic bags under her eyes and big like wax fucking wrinkles on her face.
It doesn't help that they act really old, really poorly.
Yeah, they Marty, bring me my whiskey.
I remember the good old days.
Right, exactly. Just to let you know, we've been going an hour and a half, so this whole idea
Holy
that
shit.
15 minutes was going to be your total, but we can start to wrap it up, I think. We can. Was there any major point? You were going to say something about the acting, because you started to say it out there, and you said, oh no, I'll say it on the show.
No, I didn't. Nothing spectacular. No really in-depth observation. I was just saying that acting always impresses me. Whenever I see behind-the-scenes featurettes,
right,
and I see actors actually there's some translation that happens between the screen and reality.
Yeah.
Where when you watch an actor live doing what they're doing, it all of a sudden feels much more real.
Right.
And you really get the sense that they're acting. Where it looks easy when you see it on the screen.
Yeah.
You see it on the screen and you're like, oh, they're just acting like people. That's easy.
Right.
Anybody can do that.
Right.
Right? Like I act like a person all day.
Yeah.
It's quite a good act, if I do say so myself. But
you don't see any of the robotic parts or the alien genetics or anything like that.
All a veneer.
Yes.
No, but
I imagine when you get home, it's like and the bits that are human fall away, and you. No, I'm kidding.
At last, I can recharge.
I must put my tentacle into the wall socket.
need more power. Yeah, I become Jeffrey Jones at home. And I don't.
I live entirely on lemon meringue pie.
No, but then you see it in a behind-the-scenes picture, and you see them actually doing it with 20 people around them. And
right.
It's, I don't know, there's
and
something...
the camera, like, right there in their face.
Yeah, there's something more impressive about that. I don't know why that they can command a performance like that on the spot and over again in 20 different takes. And...
Gilliam said this about working with De Niro, which was, like, the first time he'd kind of worked with... He'd always worked with, like, kind of British casts and, like, people he could kind of have fun with and just sort of who had their own way of acting because they'd come from the theatre or whatever it was. And he said the funny thing about working with De Niro was not only did he do way more takes than Gilliam normally does, but secondly, he was watching him act on set and filming it and being like, I don't think we're getting anything here. Like, he was really worried. He just didn't think anything was going to come out. Mm-hmm. And when he got to the edit suite, that's where the performance arose. Like, that's where the performance came together.
This is in Brazil?
Yeah, and it's the difference between acting for film and acting for the theatre. Most British people have been brought up to act in the theatre.
Play for the back of the house.
Or theatrically.
Yeah, right.
Which is why
Big
they always...
movements.
It's why we always play villains. It's why because we come in and we're like, I am evil.
And look at how swish your cape around.
Right, exactly. But no, there's... Funny enough, this is the second episode in which this has come up of the After Movie Diner, but Michael Caine did a whole thing that's now on YouTube called Acting for the Cinema, and it's him like acting for the camera, and how things you would never ever consider, but like when it's a close-up, you don't look at the other actor you're meant to be acting with. You should always have one eye into the camera and then one eye on the person you're acting with. Mm-hmm. The camera reads it as you're looking at the dude who's the other side of the camera.
Right.
Rather than you're looking down the barrel of the lens, which you should never do.
Because then you're looking at the audience.
Right, then you're breaking the fourth wall, or you're purposely giving a monologue to the thing. So, but what's interesting is there's a lot of sequences in Zodiac where the camera is on sticks or on a tripod, focused directly on the person, yet they're never looking down the lens. They're always looking...
Right.
You know, at whoever they should be looking over the top of the camera almost, but the camera's right in their face. That's a whole, element of acting for film that you never ever consider watching the movie.
Right.
But it's all there in the technique.
Until you see it behind the scenes. And you see this camera literally up in their face.
Right, because with a wide-angle lens, you can have a camera like practically brushing your nose and it's still picking up everything.
Right.
So, not to mention there's someone underneath your feet sticking down a thing, and there's a grip guy with like wires and whatever it is.
And there's 400 other people standing around on set waiting for you to get your fucking shit together so that we can all go to lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, no, it's it is remarkable actually.
It just struck me when we were watching it that I was like,
when you think of just how films are put together, and what people do on film, it's pretty incredible, and the fact that
and they get a bum rap, I mean, granted, a lot of actors are ridiculously overpaid, and
I think when people say bad acting, what they normally mean is like uninspiring, bland acting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you don't get bad acting. Like I've watched independent films where the acting is bad because they're just not trained actors. They're not trained in the theatre. They're not trained on film. They're not trained in anything. There's some friend or some relative or some whatever, and if someone's just stuck the camera on and gone, sorry, can you bring in a tray of muffins and say, here are your muffins, or whatever, and the guy's always
and somehow they manage to say that in a way that is completely not genuine.
Because they walk in
which should be a skill in and of itself.
Sure.
How could you even do that?
Right. And they're aware that they're carrying muffins, and they're aware that they're walking in, and they try and walk in a certain way. I've watched it because I made some films in university, like some stuff, and just had friends in it. Yep. Because it was just like, I need a woman in the scene. The only women I know are these people, so can you come in and do it? And they're terrible. And I don't mean that as offensive as them as human beings, but they were just really bad in the scene. But you think walking into a room and saying, hey, Jeff, have you got the tickets or whatever it is, would be easy for anyone. You've walked into a million rooms and said, I've got the book, or you asked for, or I've got the whatever it is.
Right.
But to do it on film is a whole other thing. And so when we see someone like Shia LaBeouf, for example, who is just a non-entity, tedious, boring, unimaginative person,
not a fan.
We say he's a bad actor, Well, he's not a bad actor. He's
I
fine.
actually,
it's just
in defense of Shia LaBeouf, here's something I never thought I would be saying. I think he's a pretty good actor, actually.
Really?
The stuff I've seen him in.
Okay,
he
fair
does
enough.
a
Bad
pretty-
example.
He
but-
does a pretty good job.
Okay.
He's not awful.
No, okay. Well,
He's
not
just-
him then. Who's awful then?
I just don't like him in any of the roles that he's ever put in,
Yeah.
and he shouldn't be in the films that they're putting him in.
Right.
Like, he's not a leading man.
No. There's also film actors who are entirely their persona, and
Right.
they don't exist anywhere else.
Exactly.
You couldn't put them on the stage and expect some Olivier-style performance out of them because they wouldn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Right.
And we love them. Like,
well, Robert Downey Jr. is an example.
Right.
He is himself. He can do other things.
Right.
I'd say I wouldn't say he's quite as not versatile as someone like maybe Samuel L. Jackson.
Right.
But he's.
But I would argue Samuel L. Jackson was a lot more versatile before Tarantino got hold of him and went, you just do shouty well, so just do shouty well. Will you do shouty well? I blame Samuel L. Jackson both owes his career to Tarantino, but also can blame every single similar role on that Pulp Fiction.
He has now become the go the fuck to sleep guy, basically.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
But no, the cast in this are impeccable. The direction is damn near flawless.
I think it's great.
It's
an amazing movie.
Great driving plot, even though it's 2.5 hours long and it takes place over like a confusing timeline. I would
and
say
even
the
though it
timeline
has
is not
no real resolution, like again, it's never. I mean, it's sort of solved in the character's mind, but it's never solved in the story's mind. You know what I don't know how to put it.
But it's an interesting thing because it's one of those, like, if you want, it's normally called water cooler television, and the idea that something happens on a TV show is a cliffhanger, and then the next day everyone is around the water cooler talking about it.
Right.
It's kind of like water cooler movie making, or
a little bit,
or what I would like to say, it's kind of like perfect for an after the movie diner. In the sense that you go to a diner afterwards and you can talk about this movie till 4 a.m. Who do you think did it? Why do you think it happened? Blah, 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 blah. Same with JFK. The reason why people go back to JFK. And yeah, JFK suffers from all the problems that Oliver Stone's movies suffer from. Here's a bit in black and white. Here's a bit with shaky cam. Here's a bit with psychedelic music or whatever it is. But ultimately it's telling a story that you come away with going, who do you think? How do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
It's like
it makes you think. It forces you to think,
right.
Which is becoming increasingly rare in the movies.
And it's also like a nice spooky idea. The fact that he could still be out there. You know what I mean? Like Arthur Lee Allen, the prime suspect, is dead, but you never know.
What if?
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even the fact, like the other thing that is sort of mentioned, and I guess the Chloe's character kind of points it out. But the idea that Paul Avery, what drives him to drink and drives him mad is the idea that the Zodiac knows who he is because he sends him a Halloween card one year directly to his desk.
Yeah.
But the fact that we know that the Zodiac knew who Robert Graysmith was to everything we're presented, yet he continued to exist without seemingly being that fearful. He still went about his life. He did. He became obsessive about the case and whatever. But if it was you or me, I'm sure we would just be like, "Fuck, I'm getting the hell out of San Francisco." I'm going to New York and I'm changing my name to Betty. I wouldn't hang around being Robert Graysmith. You know what I mean? Because how many Robert Graysmiths
constantly answer the phone? Hello.
No, Robert Graysmith lives here. Come on.
Don't know who you're talking about.
Fuck, we've got to move again. He's found me. So there's none of that there.
Who shall I say is calling?
That would be fantastic. In fact, now I'm going to do that. I'm going to move to Idaho and become Betty. After movie diner, never heard of it. Goodbye. But no, so except now I've given away my alias, so I have to find
just use Dottie or something.
Dottie, yeah. But no, overall feeling, man, you love the movie.
I like that movie a lot. I think it's really it's a movie you can watch over and over because it pulls you. It's beautiful to watch.
Right.
Even without the interest in the plot, I just think it's beautifully shot and it looks amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what Fincher's going to do. I mean, he just did the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo remake.
I didn't see any of those.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And maybe the whole idea of, like, Fincher doing serial killer movies is kind of
I don't
dumb.
know, what's he...
But out of 7, Fight Club and Zodiac, they, for me, I don't know whatever he goes on to do, but they, for me, will always be, the best films he'll ever make. What are your feelings?
I wasn't crazy about 7, and that's also a little gimmicky. Fight Club is an amazing movie. I love that movie, but
I'm annoyed now when it's kind of...
Actually, I feel like watching this movie, I like him more than when I had only seen Fight Club and 7.
Right.
Because both of those movies had the same sort of tool belt that he sort of went into and used, like, the scratchy stuff and the film effect kind of stuff. And,
sure.
He used a lot of that, I feel like.
Yeah.
And this, he's completely gotten away from it and he just did a straight film and it looked fantastic.
Yeah. No, completely. I just don't think that people like that are getting the good scripts. Or it's a case of, like, what Soderbergh was saying recently, which is, like, the reason why he's getting out of the business is because no matter how much success he's had and no matter how much he's been allowed to seemingly on the surface make the movies he wanted to make, every single film has been a struggle, no matter what the cast, and every single film he's had studio people telling him, we have to have this, we have to have that, this has to happen.
There's supposed to be a giant spider in this scene.
Right, or whatever it is. And so maybe Fincher is finding that. Now, Fincher's always been slightly more commercial than Soderbergh because, like we say, even in something like Zodiac, which is meticulously researched and meticulously shot, there's still huge, like, Hollywood tropes in it.
Yeah. This was a bomb, though, wasn't it?
I don't know if Zodiac was a bomb, was it?
I don't feel like it had a long theatrical run, but maybe I'm misremembering.
I feel like it probably was, but it has absolutely no right to be. It should be like a classic of the modern era. But I'm just saying that those 3 movies of Fincher's, while 7 is probably the most popcorny, but but also
I could agree with that.
But also in its own way, therefore the most fun out of the 3 of them. Fight Club, then, the problem I have with Fight Club now is the slight, hipster kind of philosophy behind it, because it's all bollocks.
Yeah.
And the thing that I find the most bollocks is that whole scene with, like, Brad Pitt saying, "Is that what a real guy looks like?" And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what you look like. It doesn't.
Right. It is a little hypocritical, and
not only that, but there's a whole bit in it
and
where
it's all the pop psychology
right.
self-empowerment and society wanting you to conform.
But there's a whole scene where Brad Pitt says to Ed Norton, where he goes, "I look how you want to look, I fuck like you want to fuck." There's this whole bit about it. So you are the dude on the poster, because the dude on the poster is apparently like what guys want to look like and what guys want to do. That doesn't sit well with me, that whole fucking business. Yeah. So I find the script of that a little...
But I do think that, I mean...
It's like the moment American Psycho became a movie that slightly hipsterish art school chicks liked, I was like, fuck that movie. Because it so goes against everything that movie is about.
But I really like the way that movie was filmed.
Which one? Fight Club?
Fight Club. I think it's a really amazingly put together movie.
It is. But it's very knowing, and I think I have an issue with its.
And in retrospect, it may be a little gimmicky.
Yeah,
but
I liked watching it the second time I ever watched it.
It was still one of the first movies that I walked in and walked out completely blindsided.
Totally, me too. Well, when I saw it in the theater,
it was fucking
awesome.
Amazing.
Yes,
it was the best thing I've ever seen.
Yes, when I
in retrospect, not so much, but. It's still great.
When I saw it in the theater whenever that movie came out, I was probably like either early 20s or probably early 20s.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I was probably in my early to mid-20s, but when that movie came out, I was totally devotee of it, and I was like completely like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's completely what should happen. You know, like, I completely got it. Yeah, right. And I loved the way it was made, and I was like, oh yeah, that's so clever. But the best time I ever watched it was I sat down and watched it by myself a few years later, and I watched it as a romance story or a troubled relationship story. And if you take out all the fucking pop psychology bullshit and you just watch it as the relationship between Marla and Tyler, it's really interesting because she's saying stuff like, you know, we have this amazing sex and I come down the next morning, you're a totally different person. Like, blah, blah, blah. There's all this, it works on that level as well. It doesn't have to be about...
It works a lot... It almost works better when you know the trick ending.
Right. Oh yeah, the trick ending is all... crap.
Gimmick.
Yeah. I mean, it's not only that, but it's a trick ending that I'm sure every writer comes to at some point.
Right.
In fact, we used to joke, well, I did a thing at...
It still blew my mind the first time I saw it. But.
Right. I mean, I did a film at what would be high school, but wasn't. It was my, what we called sixth form college. But I must have been 17, 18. And it was certainly before Fight Club. But I did a film in which a guy... due to a bad car accident, has this psychosis that he sees himself in movie scenes, movie genres. Like he's walking down the street and like stuff changes, and all of a sudden he's in a chase movie or he's in a horror movie or whatever it is. And it was just my way of doing a final piece where I could kind of show off lots of different tricks and techniques that I could do while hanging out on a story. And then the last scene in the movie is that he's being chased by this guy with like this hat over his face with a gun. And at the very end, who you think is your protagonist gets shot and killed. And then the guy takes off the hat and it's him. And it's like he's shot the dream. And he's got rid of the dream and killed the dream. And then he goes off and he's himself again.
That's like really deep, man.
No. It's an incredibly pretentious 18-year-old wanky thing to do. But...
And it's also, what's the Danny Kaye movie?
The Danny Kaye movie?
Yeah, Walter Mitty.
Oh, the real life of Walter Mitty?
Secret Life of Walter
Mitty.
Oh, it's a little Walter Mitty.
I hadn't seen that, so...
That's a book first.
Right. Well, I hadn't read it either. But I'm saying is if me as a sort of idiotic 17-year-old can come up with that, it's a trope that I'm sure 100 writers have used, is what I'm saying.
I'm not saying you're ripping off Walter Mitty.
No. But like the whole idea of like the duality of man, that's been in psychology forever, so it's not... Right.
But every story's been told. It's just you can tell it again in a way that's interesting.
Yes, and he does. And it's the best Ed Norton's ever been, so... it's worth seeing for that reason. But Zodiac, it's the Fincher movie I can watch it again and again.
Yeah.
It gives the same kind of feeling to me that JFK does. Yeah. It's one of the few 2.5-hour movies, along with like JFK, Apocalypse Now, and that's about it, that I can watch over and over again, because they've kind of got... They do different things throughout the movie. The moods change, the purpose changes. It's nice. Yeah, I love it. I give it hands down.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, look at that right there. Thank you ever so much for being on the show, Mark. It was a real pleasure.
And here, I promised myself that we'd be under an hour. I was going to keep this down away from after movie diner length.
Yeah.
And you've torn it out of me.
Yes, I have.
You brute.
I've dived into your very soul and wrenched out the real film critic within Mr. Marc McDonald.
I know. I know you wanted to do... a bad movie, but
no.
I'm happy to be away from bad movies for a change.
No, I wanted to do whatever. First of all, I want to do whatever you want to do, but also I wanted to do a movie we could both really dig and really enjoy, and get back to what I like doing on the diner, which is talking about stuff I love and comparing it to other stuff we love, and then also talking about a bit about who you are and stuff like that. It was all good. We did a bit of everything.
Good.
Which is great. So thanks ever so much for being on the show.
Thanks
I do genuinely hope you'll come back and do a Giallo.
Maybe.
No. I think now that the cherry has been broken...
Now the seal has been broken.
Right, the seal.
Now that we've...
now
that we've separated the flaps.
What the fuck does that mean?
That's an awful inside joke.
Oh, okay. But now
listeners to our podcast.
Right. Yes, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me at schlockTreatment.com. Well, you can find me on iTunes, Schlock Treatment is a bad movie podcast.
It's the funniest movie podcast on the web.
It's not really talking about movies so much.
But you have to, it's almost now become like a soap opera. You have to listen to them in order. There's running gags, there's running impressions, there's infighting.
Along with fellow diner guests, Doug Fry, Kirk Howley, and the infamous Matt Ringler.
Yeah, crispy bread sandwich.
Yeah. We discuss stupid movies, basically. It's basically an excuse for us to make dumb jokes.
But you're kind of the movie podcast that, for me anyway, first recognized that Netflix is like the drive-in B-movie theater of our day, and therefore you're like...
It actually kind of is, isn't
right.
it? Yeah.
And therefore you're like picking out movies...
Right, we try to stick to stuff that's available streaming so that people can actually see it.
Yeah, you can watch it, and then on the...
Because nothing used to kill me more than listening to a movie podcast and them discussing some film that sounds amazingly fascinating, and then you try to find it and it's nowhere.
Yeah, which is what
like it's only on VHS in some dusty cupboard of like a mom.
Are you talking about Moe's movies? You're talking about Moe's podcasts?
Pretty much, yeah. Anything like that.
Talking about No Budget Nightmares and Drunk on VHS.
Right.
What you're talking about.
But I mean, a lot of people talk about stuff like that.
What I try to do on the diner is I try to have, these are movies I like.
Right.
And it doesn't fucking matter. And I'll review a Don Dola movie just like I'll review a David Fincher movie because they both have their place. Completely and utterly have their place.
Sure.
And it's not a case of one-upmanship, whatever. And I'm fairly populist in my taste. I own fucking Tom Cruise movies and Jack Nicholson movies and, whatever it is. I own, like, populist movies. The majority of my movies...
I think you own every movie, though, John. Which is why I'm glad to come on here and...
Talk
about something aside from... stupidity.
I just liked it because you were getting excited all the way through the film at the way it was shot. And then when we were watching the making of, you got excited again because you were like, look, there are dolly tracks. Look, there's tripods. Look, there's... Yeah, stuff that you don't
I miss that.
Right. Well,
as a fan of cinema,
right.
I am feeling starved these days because so much of what comes out now is just... Like, not to pull the angry old man bit, but it's just...
Which is what we get accused of all the time, but yeah.
I guess that's what I am, because most of the shit that I see coming out now, I'm just not interested in.
Yeah, there's no craft to it.
I just went to a website the other day with someone at work looking at coming attractions for the next year. There's like 3 movies that I'm mildly interested in at all.
But do you think all... See... Part of me wants to say, no, listen, I'm averagely knowledgeable about the history of cinema, and, I like movies from the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s.
This is where I feel like I'm not being...
That's what I'm saying.
...unfair.
But at the same time, you speak to my dad, and he was like, yeah, it was the same with me with music. I like music from the 20s and the 30s and blah, 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 all the way up to, like, the 60s, then it got noisy and annoying, or whatever it is, right?
Oh, okay. Is that how it works?
I don't know. Is it just everything that came before us we think is awesome?
Your tastes are all formed by the time you're 20?
But then you say that, but when I was 15, I used to be like, all music after 1980 is shit. And now I'm 33 and I'm like, no, actually, there's a bunch of good stuff from the 80s. And the stuff from the 90s wasn't bad either. Stuff nowadays is shit. But maybe in 20 years' time...
20 years I might run across it.
I'll never ever go, Hannah Montana, I must sit down and watch that, or... whatever, or Justin Bieber, he really had it going on. I'm never going to say that. Just like I don't look back and go, Wham was the greatest music ever, because it wasn't. It was shit. It was shit then, it's shit now, it's never been good. Madonna was always shit, just like Miley Cyrus was shit. New Kids were always shit. Right. So I think maybe it's not the same. But I definitely say that movies have got...
boring.
Worse. Yeah. I mean, I just went and saw World War Z, This Is the End, Internship, Much Ado About Nothing, Superman, and Redemption, the new Statham one, all in like the course of a week. Right? I just
You're
had
a better man than I am.
No, I just had a big cinema going thing, and Much Ado and Redemption, the 2 lowest budget movies out of all of them, the best 2, hands down.
Really?
Best 2, hands down. Made properly, made well, had decent acting, had decent plot, decent script, decent thing to say about human condition.
Right.
And all the others were just noise and lights and nonsense.
Right. Which I can get behind sometimes.
Oh, no, right. But that's the other thing I get accused of. Oh, stop being so fucking highbrow and independent and blah, blah, blah.
I'm definitely not highbrow.
Right.
Anybody who listens to our podcast knows that.
Right. I love big, silly comedies and big, silly explosion movies, and I love, but...
I just don't like most
bad ones.
New, big, silly comedies.
You can find on
did
Twitter,
I already say Twitter?
At Schlock Treatment MNT.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you give out your personal Twitter or not? No.
Me?
No.
At Marc McD, MarcMcD.
Okay. You're not on Facebook anymore.
If you feel like hearing somebody rant about
Yeah.
pointless nonsense.
But you have a whole load of other strings to your bow with your whole like cynic thing and your whole skeptic thing. Your skeptic thing and your political bent and the whole bit. There's a lot more to Marc McD to find out. We will be wrenching it from him next time.
And every bite more interesting than the last.
This has been a great show, man. I can't tell you. This has been a great show. I'm really happy.
No, but it's very kind of you to say that.
It has been a good show. We've gone round the houses with a bunch of stuff, references and personal stuff and blah, blah, blah. It's great. Zodiac has pulled all sorts of conversations out of us.
Well, I can't wait to see how many million throngs of viewers I attract here.
You and your throngs. You and your million throngs. I don't know where that comes from. But great episode, dude. I loved it. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
You must come back and we'll do Giallo films next.
All right.
Next on the After Movie Diner.
Hello. It's me, Michael Caine, for the opening sketch. I'm just here to introduce this week's bloody song. Now, it was meant to just be a regular song, maybe a song about the film Zodiac or David Fincher or something like that. But what happened this week was that Marc McDonald, the guy you just heard on the bloody show, he said, I tell you what, why don't you write an amazing song about Lovejoy and shaky cam? And I was like, oh, well, maybe I could write a song about Lovejoy and shaky cam. Maybe that's something I could bloody do. Then he said, maybe you could do it in a style of ELO. EL bloody O. So I thought about it, and I thought, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could do a song in the style of ELO about shaky cam and bloody Lovejoy. And this is what I came up with. Enjoy.
There's a man sometime in the future lives up on satellite 2. He tries to watch his space age television because that's what space age man will do. But when he turns on the screen that's just hovering in midair, he don't see nothing. The camera won't stop moving. It makes him put his head in his hands. He can't see nothing because of the shaky cam. He thinks back to the past. His hair is grey and thin with age. He can almost remember clearly. Back then they were clearer days. And he soaks inside his capsule, floating high above the earth, wondering why they ever bothered to make films with some worth. When if you want excitement, get your extras to scream and shout, and your cameraman to wave the camera about. And in the corner of the the space station. He finds the retro entertainment machine. And as he searches through all the static, looking for images on the screen, he comes across a slightly sleazy man with a leather jacket and a curly black mullet. With him is a man wearing what appears to be a three-piece tweed, and yes, a beret. And if you can believe it, one's called Tinker and the other is called Lovejoy. No shaky cam anywhere inside, our spaceman feels again like he's a boy. And there he sits for hours, the light flickering on his face. And he forgets the future, he forgets that he's in space. He can finally watch television without needing a motion sickness pill. He no longer gets those headaches, and he didn't need to kill. He's a happy old futuristic spaceman. Now he's away from the shaky cam. Give us no shaky cam. He don't like it, he's a spaceman. And it's very still up in space. When he watches Lovejoy, look at the smile that comes across his face. No more shaky cam.
There are men, and then there are second unit podcast men. The podcast you've just been listening to is part of the Second Unit Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at 2upn.blogspot.com or on Facebook under the Second Unit Podcast Network. Our fantastic list of shows include Drunk on VHS, We Came from the Basement, No Budget Nightmares, The After Movie Diner, Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid, and Bloodbaths and Boomsticks. Take one podcast into the shower. Don't be a blithering idiot, Alan. We can give you the multiple podcast cleansing system all in one place that your hair deserves. Our programming is available across all platforms, from iTunes to Podomatic, TalkShoe to Stitcher, so you have absolutely no excuse. Listen today, and a free naked person of your choice will be shipped from Thailand to your door in a matter of weeks. The Second Unit Podcast Network, bringing you the action and leaving the boring stuff to the other guys. Bloody hell. Who does a girl have to blow around here to get a decent beverage?